if you throw the first number, if you give the first number, you probably are leaving money on the table. So let's say I'm going in for a job, and the job, I think, the range for the salary is somewhere between 50 and 60. And I come in and I don't want to be greedy, and I say, okay, I'd like 55,000. And so I started the bidding. Well, they may have had 65, but now they're going to negotiate me down from that 55. So because I threw the first number, I potentially have left money on the table. So there's no hard and fast rule, because the counter approach is to do what's called anchoring. So when you are anchoring, you are starting the conversation and setting the value of the salary or whatever it is. So the best example I can give you is when someone sells their house, right? So they put it on the market, they do research to decide what's the best price to put it on the market for. And they have to establish that price, because typically you're not going to have a buyer who just walks in and says, oh, your house is nice, I'll offer you $300,000. So they're anchoring the value. And in a way, it's a good approach, because you've now set the expectation for the value of that particular thing, in this case, a house. But almost everything that you find out there tends to be go with, don't throw the first number, right? So again, there's no right or wrong. I think it's often in the context of what you're negotiating over. And so in the context of salary, your choices are, you can either say, this is the salary I want, and you can say a particular number. You can say, I expect 50,000 a year as my salary, or you can say, I expect a range of 50 to 60 as my salary. Or you could flip it to them and they could say, we have a salary range of this, or we have a salary band of this. And so it's who's going to start that conversation. So it's a little trickier with an employee-employer situation, because it's not a one-time transaction, right? You're hopefully going in and getting a role for years, or however long, you want to be in that role. So there's some, I guess, it could be a little uncomfortable as to how you started. And if they say, and it's pretty common, and say, what is your salary expectation? It's hard to flip it to them rather than answering and putting that number out on the table. There certainly are ways to do that. For example, you can say, well, I really need to hear more about the role. What are my responsibilities going to be? And kind of deflect it a little bit, but really it's answering a question with a question to hopefully move it back to find out what the salary range is that they are presenting, right? So again, I'd like to say do this or do that, but in general, it's better, I think, not to throw the first number.